Hey, family. So I'm here for another episode, and it's wonderful to say this. Since a lot of the other stuff that I recorded in the past, I had no idea that I was going to start the podcast this year. But now that there is a place for these videos, and there are, or should I not say video, but audio, and there is an actual place that I've now created. The idea of a podcast is no longer an idea. It has started, and for me, it's the beginning, but it's small. But this is the beginning to me actually recording content intentionally and on purpose, not just recording it just to store it away for, a whimsical day that I may start. I've started. And I don't really know what all is going to be said or discussed in this. It's still a download because there are some things that I feel I need to talk about, that I need to get out of my mind, that I need to release into the atmosphere, some things that I need to process out loud. And to be honest, I am in a place where I would love to have conversations, like where if I could just pick up the phone and have people and know that they were like right now readily available, so that I could discuss what it is, because I'm in a place and I'm just like, has anybody else ever been here? Is there a woman who has been in a place outside of pregnancy and they feel the same thing that I guess, we say nesting, when that that a baby's coming, that at a particular time that things are getting ready to take place. And I find myself to be in that place right now where it feels like nesting. And I don't know how to explain it. That's the only thing that I have, is that's the only thing that I know to call it right now, is that's just what it feels like. And so yeah, it's just a conversation of me wondering, would anybody understand? Would it sound crazy? Is it logical? Are there other women per se who it's almost like your life is shifting? And for instance, there are things that I never thought about. I used to just do them out of habit because I had to, like laundry, dishes, cleaning the house. These are things that any living person has to do if they're going to be healthy and if they're going to take care of not just themselves, but the place that they live in. But I noticed a few months ago that I started washing clothes when I woke up at 6 a.m. and it was like I liked it. Like I wasn't able to just process it. But I noticed after a while, it's like, hey, do you realize that you started doing this? And then it also got to the point that while I was, waking up a kid for school, her getting ready in the bathroom, because of how our washroom is in the place that I stay, it's in a closet, like an actual bedroom closet. And so while my daughter's getting ready in their restroom, I'm in the closet, and I realized that I not only wash clothes at 6 a.m., but I take clothes out of the dryer, and when I should have been getting ready for work or getting up my baby girl, I was folding laundry instead of throwing it in the basket and it's sitting for weeks, or really digging through the basket and just, whatever we needed to wear, we were pulling it out of a basket. It never got put up. Y'all, I haven't did that in months. Like 2024 stuff was hard, but some things shifted for me that I didn't think about, I didn't plan, I didn't really look at anything else as an issue when it came to laundry. But these are just small, subtle things that begin to take effect and begin to change in these last few months. I've just been doing it where laundry doesn't really sit in baskets for days, and majority of the time, unless I'm busy or I'm just, washing back to back to back and I don't have time, those clothes are getting folded as soon as they come out of the dryer. And that was not, it's become normal now, but it wasn't normal to me. And the thing is, I enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed it because it didn't feel like a task. It didn't feel like work. It didn't feel like another duty that I was having to do as somebody's mama. I was just doing it. And these last short few weeks, I put language to it, and that's what I called it. It was like, God, I feel like naturally something has shifted on the inside of me. And without thought, without knowledge, without any kind of process, I've begin to I'm not going to say it's a joy, but it's like stuff that would have overwhelmed me, it doesn't have the same effect on my mind. And it's like there's a desire, a healthy desire to do things in my home that I haven't felt that in so long. I used to love to clean my house. And at one point it felt like a burden because it was like I just had so much stuff to do. And quite honestly, I can't say that any of my responsibilities have changed, but they no longer feel like a burden. They no longer feel hard. They no longer feel heavy. And it's like there's almost a sense of satisfaction in my heart. Like the same way that I feel when I know that I've done a good deed or when I've helped somebody, or when I was out of my comfort zone but I did what I felt I needed to do for someone, and then to see how that thing helped them, the reward was in how I felt in the moment. And it's almost like me doing these things, cleaning up behind my children, vacuuming, after they've made a mess and wasted more food than that makes sense to me. It didn't feel like a burden when I did it yesterday. And I had this burst of energy, and like a thought went through my mind that was just like, I'm grateful that I get to be able to do this. I'm grateful that I get to come behind them. And it was like there was no need to fuss, there was no need to say anything. I just did what I was going to have to do in the first place. And even when it came to, cleaning both of the restrooms, I did it with a peace in my heart. And I think yesterday is when I had to stop for a moment and not say anything, but just ponder on, who are you becoming in these moments? Who are you being groomed into in these weeks? And I realize it's like something is around the corner, and I have no idea what exactly is around the corner, but I know that it's good and I know that it's healthy. And it's like I'm being prepared to be the caretaker. I'm being prepared to be the caregiver, and not in this, not in this way where it's like I feel like I have to be this, but more so the state of mind is I get to do this. It is a privilege to be able to take care of my children. It is an honor to be able to cook for them. It is an honor to be able to take care of them. It is an honor to be able to make sure that their things are the way that they need to be. It's an honor to go and clean up behind them. And no, not all the time do I want to be cleaning up. When I've cleaned a room or I've said it, I don't know how many times, and I end up going and doing it myself. There are moments that, of course, it's like, ugh, I've done this. But where I am in these current days, what used to overwhelm me no longer does. And how I used to feel about things, I no longer feel that way. And I don't know if this is a thing. I don't know if this is just me. I don't know if there have been other women, other wives. I know that it happens when, obviously in pregnancy, because that's the only time that I've heard of it. But to be where I am, and it's like I am a single mother, but I feel like life is not going to continue to be what it is. And there are going to be some responsibilities that I have in my home that won't feel chaotic. They won't have that pressure attached to it. But I just honestly, what's in my heart is I believe that the Lord is graciously preparing me and weaning me from having to take care of everything. And as those weights are coming off my shoulders, even now, like before He delivers me into new, before He delivers me into better, before I walk into my blessings, before I walk into a season where there is a king that is the head of the house, and I'm not having to worry about things that I was never meant to, have to worry about. I believe that I am going to have a better appreciation for my role as a woman, and what my role as a woman, as a wife, as a mother in my home and in my family may look different from what another woman does. But the things that I find joy in, which will be to cook, which will be to clean, the things that they, I guess, would have labeled old school and what grandmama and them used to do, that's the stuff that I find joy in. When I think about being able to stay at home and manage my household so that my husband doesn't have to worry about it. When I think about making sure that laundry, like I don't mind washing every day. It actually makes it better for me in my house just being by myself. If I wash a load a day, or when, clothes get thrown in a basket, it's just better for me to go ahead and wash those loads instead of letting it stack up and I'm having to wash 5 and 6 and 7 loads at one time. But I understand that who I'm supposed to be as a woman may not fit the society today, but I'm also not trying to meet or fit society's norms. I want to be the woman that my family needs me to be. I want to be the wife that my husband needs me to be. I want to be the mother that my children need me to be, and even realizing that each one of my children are going to need me to be something different. And at different stages of their lives, those same children are going to require for me to be a different version of who I was from last year or tomorrow. And so I find it beautiful that I am aware of this a natural transition into a different position. There is a natural transition happening within me, internally. But my head space is what allows for me to be aware that, LaDisha, you're not who you were at the beginning of the year. And y'all don't understand, these are things that I prayed for. I want to be the healthy mama. And these are things that I've talked about in previous recordings, but I want to be the healthy mama. I want to be gentle. I want to be loving. I want to be kind. I want to have self-control. Now, because of who I am, it doesn't take me long after a few times where it's like you can get that version of your mama that you may not prefer, because I have to get my point across. But I don't desire for that to always be the mama that they get. I don't always want that to be the first and the only level that they get to me. I don't want to be the mama that I have to come back and continuously apologize for the same thing. I want there to be a dialogue, and for my children and even other children to know she can be pushed. And if I don't want a certain version out of her, then they will know. Depending on how I respond will dictate where things go after the initial part of the conversation. But overall, I want there to be healthy. I want there to be a healthy version of me. I want to be the mama who bakes the cookies. I want to be the mama who volunteers for the weekend sleepovers. I want to be the mama where all the kids are at my house, in the neighborhood. And yes, still be the mama that they know I'm fussing at everybody. Everybody's getting the same treatment. But also to be the mama that they know when you're at my house, everybody's going to get loved on. And when you're at my house, everybody's going to get fed. And when you're at my house, everybody is going to be treated as though they were my own child. And that nobody gets left out, that nobody gets exempt. I've always wanted to be a wife and a mama. I didn't think about anything else. I've always wanted to stay at home, raising my kids for whatever the reason. My family has always been my biggest concern. I've always wanted a healthy family. I'm not going to say I want a big, huge family, but I do want a big family. And not necessarily a big family because I birthed all these babies. No, you can find family anywhere. You can love on anybody. Family, to me, I know firsthand, family is not blood. Family is who loves you and who you choose to love. Love is a choice. We choose to love people or we choose not to. We choose to be nice or we choose to be hateful. And so as I have gone through the month of May, as I've gone really through the last 90 plus days, going on the last 3 months, I have taken a medical leave of absence for my mental health. And being a Black woman, I didn't know, and it may have nothing to do with my ethnicity, but it's not a normal thing. I didn't know that your mental health, outside of mental illness was a real thing. Like, I didn't realize how serious it was and how important it is to take care of your mind, that how important your emotional state of being can make you or break your life. And some of these things that I have experienced, I do understand that it is because I am in a healthier state of mind. I am a healthier version than I have ever been. And it's because I didn't wait to ask permission to take care of myself. And for the first time, I got to a place of desperation where I felt like I was going to break, and I didn't understand where the breaking was coming from. Because one day I felt fine, and another day I woke up and it was just like, I cannot take any more. Mentally, emotionally, being a mama who does it all for her babies, being a mama who doesn't put my kids on anybody. If they're not at school and they're not at daycare, they're with me. And then working full time, it's like there's never really a break. And I was overly stimulated and I was overly frustrated and I was just overly tired. And so the past 11 weeks I have had time to just be. I've had time to rest. I've had time to sleep if needed. I've had time to just sit and do nothing. I've had time that if I wanted to just, watch shows just to allow myself to just be, I've done it. And when I look at life today, just going back to work, I also realize this is not what I want much longer. I don't want the life that I lived bef- you know, before March of 2024. I don't want the 40 hours a week. I don't want to be tied to a computer screen. I don't want this long term. I don't want to have to show up somewhere else and it has no benefit to my future. I've written a book. I've started the podcast. I've I've done things that I never thought that I was actually going to do because I didn't know when I was going to get time. And now that I've started, I can't quit. I've crossed the start line. I cannot quit. And the finish line doesn't ever show up until the day that I die. And so I have realized that I love my babies more than I realized. I love those girls more than I ever knew, but I was just too tired to know the truth. And sometimes weariness and tiredom, if tiredom is a word, it is in my book today. Sometimes it's hard to know how you really feel about something when your mind is unhealthy. And I thought that my children one day were a burden. They weren't a burden. I was just tired and boggled down. I didn't know how to appreciate them because I didn't appreciate my days. I didn't appreciate life. I didn't have time to think about stuff. And I realized that I love my daughters so much that I would give whatever I had to, that I care so much about their happiness. But in loving them, I also realized that the way I love my children is a reflection of the desire is a reflection of the desire of the way that I want to be loved. The way that I love other people is a reflection of how I feel I need to be loved. I love people through my actions. My presence is a gift. What I do for people around me, it's a gift. How do I show my love? I show my love by being what I feel that individual needs in that exact moment. I love by listening to the words that they never said. I love by giving the gifts that they never really asked for. Because quite honestly, sometimes people only know how to say what they say, but they don't really know how to say what they truly mean. And I feel that it's a gift to be a person that can listen to somebody and hear their heart, to listen to their words and you hear their needs even when they don't even know what to ask for or how to ask for. When you can give someone a gift in life, and when they get the gift, it's almost the equivalence of, I've always needed this, yet I never knew I needed this. And I have found in my lifetime, it doesn't matter if it's a stranger, it doesn't matter if it's a friend. I take pride and joy in knowing that I hold something that I think is a rare gift and a rare quality in life. And that is the ability to hear, not just listen, but to hear with an understanding, to hear what words aren't said, or basically it's to read in between the lines. Not enough people stop long enough, and I think not enough people today care about other people if they feel that person won't benefit them. But I get gratitude, and it's even more gratifying when you can help somebody who doesn't expect help. When you can give somebody something that doesn't even have an expectation. Some people just talk because they just need to get it out, and they're so used to not being heard, or being missed, or being left out, or being misunderstood, or sometimes people that they talk to just don't care, that they don't even have an expectation. So it's not even that they're getting their hopes up, and it's not that they are disappointed. Sometimes people still just need to get it out. And it's the beautiful moments when you realize, after all the time that you're no longer caring, after all the time that you no longer have expectation, when you're no longer even looking for the good in the world, when you're no longer expecting the good out of people, and then just at a blimp, you get a glimpse of goodness. I want to be the goodness. I want to be the goodness in the world. I want to know that on any given day, people may only meet me one time, but if I can leave them with something, if I can leave them with hope, if I can leave them with just a little piece in their heart that says, you know what, maybe there is something out there. I don't know how often I'm going to get it, but I can have just a little bit of hope that it can happen again. But for my family, for those who know me, for those who I'm not going to say for those who love me, for those who I love, and those that I love on, and those that I care about, which is normally it's going to be anybody that I meet. I don't like hurting people, and I don't like being nasty just because I can be. But to know that my at-home family, the family that I create, the family that God handpicks and brings to me, those friends that aren't friends, but that's family, those are my loved ones. When they think of me, I want them to know that as long as they have me, that they have the good. That as long as they have me, I want them to know that they have somebody that hears. They have someone that sees. That they have someone that gives the gifts that can't be paid for. Because I'm not talking about gifts to be bought. I'm talking about the gift of love, the gift of being there, the gift of hearing, the gift of seeing, the gift of knowing someone and letting them know that they're known. Those are the gifts, and those are the traits, and those are the attributes that I want to give off to those that are around me. I don't care how far, how high, how wide God takes me. I always want to be the girl of love. I want to love on his people. I want to love on his creation. I want to love on his children. And even those who may not be considered a child of God, they're still his creation. And regardless of how we self-identify, I feel like everybody deserves good, whether they're good or not. Everybody deserves love, whether they're easily lovable or not. And it's better and it's easier to be a person that's filled with joy because you want to be filled with joy. It's easier to be happy when you want to be happy, when you want to be filled with happiness. And I feel like it's been a while since I've been this giddy version of myself. It's been a while since I've been this loose kind of. I want to let go more. I want to be that mama that's not always so uptight, because I can be that. Yet I can be one of the most fun, childlike individuals. But when it comes to my babies, I don't know why I feel like I have to be so serious all the time. But I want to let go. I don't want to just be mama that's strict. I want to be mama that in the right time we can be whimsical. That mama in the right time we can make messes. That mama in the right time that we can be spontaneous and we can just go with the flow, and we don't really have to think much as long as nobody's getting hurt. But I haven't been this free in my mind in so long. And as my mind has opened up and as my mind has been released, I realize it's easier for people to love me when I love myself. It's easier for my babies to love me and like me when I like myself. It's easier for me to be who I was created to be, I was never meant to be so uptight and so serious about everything. But it's helped me in this past week, this past Saturday. I had a moment in prayer, and I remember maybe about a good week total. I prayed, and I told God, I said, I believe I can pray this because I believe we can pray anything. And for a moment, I thought maybe I was just going to have to deal with it. Being told that trauma, past trauma, that it's normal when your body responds in a certain way, because that's your body's response of protecting itself. But I had a reaction, almost, it wasn't a panic attack, but it was like I could tell there was some anxiety, and it was straight up adrenaline. And I was like, I didn't like the way that I felt. It reminded me of old events from the past. And at the time, the way that I responded was necessary because it was in the moment. It was in a state of fear. And this, years later, having this moment, having my body was triggered, and I didn't know how to calm it down, and I didn't know how to control it. And it was just like, this is a good thing because the body's doing its job. But I remember I said to myself, I can't pray for that to go away. But later on, I realized, yes, you can. And I went to God because I'm like, God, you made this body. And also, I haven't always had these issues. And I was in a moment of vulnerability. I said, I was like, God, I understand why my body responds the way that it does. And I understand that because of some of the traumatic things that I went through in my marriage, in my my first marriage. I say the first one, I've only had one, but I'm speaking and believing that the second one is right around the corner. So in my first marriage, there were things that happened where it became normal for my body to respond this way. And I said, God, I want to go back to a time when I didn't know this. I want to go back to a time when I had never been triggered. I want to go back to a time when I wasn't fearful. I want to go back to a time when I wasn't looking over my shoulder, watching, my surroundings, wondering if I was safe, wondering if there was somebody lurking, wondering if I was going to have to try to figure out how to make a movement for my safety and my well-being. And I was like, God, I need you to take this away from me, because I don't ever want this to happen again. I don't want to live like this. I didn't like that I was not in control. I didn't like that my body was left with evidence that I wasn't aware of unless something triggered me. And those triggers took me out of a place where I was not able to consciously think about what was going on, because again, it was so much adrenaline and my feet were shaking. And it was like, even after the fact, I had to allow my body time to just calm down and go back to a normal state of being. And in that week of praying, there were many other prayers. It didn't just like happen overnight. But I had never thought to pray and take that to God and say, take this, just like it got put in my body. Take this out. Take this trauma out. It's like, if you got to take the memories, take the memories. I don't need to live with this. And so Saturday, May the 18th, I had a moment with the Lord in the spirit. And there was some forgiveness. There were a lot of different things that I had all bottled up after this experience about 2 weeks ago. And it brought up old stuff, and I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to be hateful. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to wish and pray evil, because it was going through me. Like, it was festering in my body, anger, all these different things. And when I started calling out different characteristics that I didn't want to be, it was like something broke. But my moment that I felt right then and there, it was like a snap, like something split. And it was clear revelation. And I realized that no matter what I go through, God, you're still good. And whether life is what I want it to be or not, I know that I'll never walk alone. Even today, the things that I was praying for in that moment, I said, God, even if what I want doesn't happen, I know that what does happen is intentional, and it's on purpose, and it's already, like, you already know the plan. And if I have to walk through things that I don't want to walk through, I know that just like the 3 Hebrew boys, you're going to be with me in it. That even if I have to walk through the fire today in my life, I know that I won't even walk through the fire alone. And acknowledging that the Holy Spirit was wiser than I was. Acknowledging that the Holy Spirit was better than any circumstance, that God was good, that God was greater than any hurt that I could ever encounter, that God was greater than any prayer request that I was waiting to happen, that God was greater than delivering me out of a storm that I was tired of being in for the last 3 years, that God, that the Holy Ghost was greater than anything, and that having the Lord was greater than any prayer. It was greater than any answered prayer, and that God was greater than any storm, and that God was greater than any circumstance. But not that just that he was greater. I was thankful in knowing that no matter what I must endure, it's good because you're in it with me. And in that moment, everything that had been filling my being all of that evil, uh, just the I call it the spirit of offense. Everything vile that could have possibly been in my being. It's like I could feel a blanket being pulled off of me. If a blanket was pulled off of my head, and it is the equivalence of not knowing that you were in the darkness because it looked like it was light. But when that thing was pulled off, it was undeniable. And I have walked this past week, I have walked an undeniable walk. And I know that it was nobody but God. And it has helped me realize that all of that was a distraction. That whole encounter was a distraction to keep my eyes off of what my eyes were supposed to be set on, which was the goodness of the Lord. And walking through forgiveness took me even another step forward in this process of feeling like of nesting. I'm just going to call it nesting. I'm nesting for the next door. I'm nesting for the blessing of God. I'm not doing it for a blessing. I know that it's right around the corner. It's like I've in the spirit I've pivoted. And so before I get to my next location, before I get to my next destination, before I walk in marriage, before I become a wife in the natural, because I'm already one in the spirit, I won't have to change who I am. I won't have to conform to become this wife or to become a better mother. I'm already her. And so just like when I had my oldest daughter, and once I brought her home after a few weeks, people would say, well, how does it feel? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I was already doing it before I started doing it. I feel like that's going to be my equivalence. How does it feel like to be a wife? I don't know. To me, nothing's changed. I was already doing the same thing that I was gonna have to that I was gonna need to do in this season. The only difference is now people will be able to have an evidence, or maybe there will be a new title for me to carry or to add to everything else that I wear. But it's like, as far from me, I won't feel like I'm doing anything more than I was doing yesterday. I won't feel like there's a greater burden or a greater weight that is upon me. But it's like being groomed and being prepared or being trained for a job position that hasn't yet come available in your company. And everybody's on one accord that, hey, even though it's not official, the job is yours. And so what do? Let me go ahead and start training you. Let me go ahead and start showing you how to do this. Or maybe that's not the situation, but there's a job that they know is coming available. You got people and they're for you and they're not against you. And they say, hey, we know this job because we do this job. So we're going to train you. So when you go in for the interview and they start asking you these questions, or when you get ready, when you fill out the application, even though you're doing one job that these new things are not required for, we're going to make sure that not that you're able to be trained, we're going to make sure that you already have these skills under your belt. And I can say one thing, that is the God that I serve. He is a God that leads and prepares and grooms because he's a creator. And so before I get into a place, he's not going to send me somewhere that I'm unqualified for. He doesn't send us into things that we're not ready for. He doesn't send us into places that we can't carry the weight for. And so I know that I can't complain about doing regular things in a home as a woman and like, oh, I gotta cook, I gotta do. No, you were doing it before anyways. But now there is a joy, and there it's like I get gratitude in knowing this is not a chore. I get to do these things for my daughters. I get to clean their wash their clothes. I get to do this, and it'll be the same thing for my husband. That as a man, he's going to have things that he's responsible for, and as a woman, as a wife, it will be an honor and a privilege to know that there are things that I do that he never has to worry about. There will be things that I do that won't be a burden, that he won't even have to think twice, and there vice versa. There will be things that I have to think about today, that I have to worry about today, that I have to be responsible for today, and I know that as I walk and I'm being prepared, that God is even in this season teaching me, daughter, let go of the control. Trust me in what I'm trying to do. So I'm already having to practice submission. I'm having to practice obedience. And if I can submit to, and God is breaking me in some areas. But if I've already been walking down this path of humility, he's like, drop your pride, drop the arrogance, drop your ego, drop the attitude. You got to be nice. You can't be nasty. You got to do things in love. You have to have self-control. All of these different things that I have, these seeds that have been planted in me, and the harvest that is being produced, I know that it's for a greater good. But it's a beautiful thing when I see that my mind has shifted towards things that I've been doing. I've been a mom now for 7 years. I've been a single mother. Even when I was married, I was a single mother because I handled everything on my own. I was never able to lay down any responsibilities when I got married. Nothing shifted, nothing changed. If anything, there was more weight because I was a married woman still taking care of everything. So that was another individual. And then I got pregnant, still taking care of everything. And so that was a baby. And it was like, I got me and these girls, but I'm not going to, it just is what it was. But there was always going to be a roof over our head. We had to have food to eat. They had to have clothes. It was like, there's some things you just can't go without. So I've always carried things and weight that God never intended for me to carry, but because of my own life decisions, I had burdens that were heavier than they should have been. But walking with God these last few years, like really, really walking with Him, getting closer to Him than I've ever been before, I'm able to see how God works. And it is a beautiful thing when you can see, not see, but when you can see in the spirit, and how I see in the spirit, because everybody's different. Everybody doesn't have the same gifts. Everybody doesn't have the same abilities, in the spirit, and everybody's not at the same place to even know what gifts they have. But when I say what I see in the spirit, it's not what I see with my natural eyes, and it's not anything that I see visibly. I have a sense, and it's like I can feel, and in those feelings, it's like being led with my eyes closed, but I can still see it. So what I feel is my eyes. My feelings are leading me, not my emotions, but what I feel on the my inner self, my spirit being. I know that I've shifted. I know that the trajectory has changed. I know that I'm going in a different direction. I know that I'm headed to good. I know that I'm headed to greater. I know that there is goodness up ahead of me because I feel it so strongly. Like it's like a gravitational pull. It's pulling me in that direction. And it is a beautiful thing to feel. And I just wonder, has anybody else, is there another woman out there who has gone through a season of nesting where you know that you are being groomed and prepared without actual instruction, but you notice it in your life? You notice it with the way that you do things. You notice it with your mind frame, and you can tell that you really have a new mind compared to the old. Maybe one day I'll be in a room of other women and this can be discussed live and in action to say, sis, you're not the only one. But I can honestly say it's a beautiful thing to wake up and live and know that maybe for the first time or first time in a long time, I'm really living with a healthy mind.